Alright guys, Scrappy here again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. OpTic Texas turned on the streams last night to stream a couple of scrim sets they played against CTE Nation, as they're known, Huke's actual former team in challenges, and also the Carolina Royal Ravens, the #1 seed in the league right now, the team that started 4-0, and OpTic came out on top in the scrim, relatively emphatically so, but there are still big questions based on the way that these players performed in the scrim and how these guys are going to turn up when we get to land. Very much into your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, I thought this is pretty funny. I know that this has been coming a long time in Call of Duty, but just people saw this and were like, guys, are you serious? You know, the game's in an absolute shambles. Nade shots quit because there's too many cheaters, and yet, you know, this is what we're dropping into the game. This I thought was also pretty funny from the COD League. Just, I know that the admin, I imagine, of the COD League account was around pre-CDL, but you guys remember when the league first came around, and they were pretending that everything that happened before the CDL never even existed. It was almost like we were going to start afresh. There was no respect given to, you know, Hex and a lot of the OGs as well. When Karma retired later in that season, they weren't even sure what to say because they were like, well, I guess he won the World Championship 3 times, but that was before our era. Nowadays, everyone recognizes that, yes, Call of Duty competitive did exist before the CDL came around, and even to such an extent that, you know, the league tweeted this out, looking back at the 2017 Grand Finals for the World Championship, which, of course, you know, some would argue, many would argue, kind of golden era of COD in and around that time frame. And, of course, that was pre-CDL, of course, it was CWL, but yet the COD League are talking about it yesterday. Let's talk about the OpTic versus Ravens matchup, though, that happened last night. These are Slashers cards so far here in Black Ops 6. Now, look, it's only been 4 games, it's early days, but Slasher's been looking really good at this game so far. I'm not massively surprised, to be honest. Like, Slasher doesn't get the credit he deserves. I've said this for years, and he's come out the gates absolutely swinging this year. His hardpoint, #1, kills per 10 minutes in the entire league, which is, like, never something. I rate Slasher highly, but I never thought I'd be saying that compared to Scrappy and Dashy. A lot of these guys are very close, but Slasher has the highest kills per 10 in the entire league right now for his role, and damage per 10 is right there as well, and his hill time isn't bad either. His search has been good, his control's been pretty good as well, but obviously Gwynn's been there frying in addition. So, yeah, only 4 games, but Slasher's starting the season as he means to go on. A couple of clips I wanted to share for you guys as well, one of which from OpTic coach JP, or like coach analyst, whatever you guys know, they kind of split responsibilities there with JP and Karma on that team. But yeah, JP was talking about their search and destroy, because they look really good in search and destroy since the Huke change, and that shouldn't be a massive surprise. The OpTic guys have talked about this as well. Huke's bringing a lot of value to their search and destroy, and apparently he's actually the one making the decisions and calling the shots in their search and destroy. So, you know, I think that's great to hear. Of course, the big question with Huke is always, when you go to LAN, what does that look like? And I think there are some questions on, you know, what this OpTic team's going to be when they get to LAN, because I would suggest, based on what we've seen historically, Huke and, well, Huke is usually weaker on LAN than online. Kenny is typically much stronger on LAN than online. Shotzzy and Dashy, I'd say, roughly the same. You could argue Shotzzy a little bit weaker historically, but I'm not sure there's that much in it. So I don't expect OpTic to play that dissimilarly on LAN to online, based on what, you know, the evidence we currently have. And look, they've been looking pretty good online. We'll discuss the evidence of that in a couple of seconds. I'll share this clip, and I'll also share what Shotzzy had to say just before Ravens played FaZe the other day, because of course Ravens went on to 3-0 FaZe, but according to Shotzzy, in their practice, Ravens have been looking pretty bad, and that's certainly relevant to what we're going to discuss here.
And S&D doesn't necessarily need to be Ken. S&D obviously is probably more Kyler right now, because he has so many more reps at S&D. It'll probably turn into Ant, because that's what it usually does. But right now, dude, Kyler was basically calling for us most of the searches. That's honestly one of the better things with the amateur system, because they have so many more S&D reps, like true S&D reps of like the AM cups and whatever. He was actually calling for like most of the searches.
That's all that matters.
All right, well now we got FaZe up against Carolina. Is this going to be a good series, you think? Because we've been talking about it. Does Carolina have any chance, you think?
Carolina is so weird, bro, because I'm not going to lie, the times that we played them, we even played them with Kyler, I'll be honest, they didn't win a map. They look dog shit. And like, I'm just being honest, they look dog shit. But then they beat, like, who's our most recent match?
Falcons? No, not Falcons. It was Vancouver. Who they play?
Yeah, I think it was Minnesota.
Was it Minnesota?
And then they beat him, yeah?
Yeah, 3-1. No, it was LAG.
And they beat him, yeah? And yeah, they beat, and then they beat
Dude,
LAG.
we just went like 0 for 4.
Yeah, and then they beat LAG. So like I was like, bro, because LAG is actually not that bad. And I was like, what the
They
fuck?
played LAG in Vegas.
Yeah. So
But
I don't know.
Liddigoat
I feel like
crazy.
I feel like when TJ has dope, they win. It all depends on him. If he has dope, they're gonna fucking win. So who do they play? You said FaZe.
FaZe.
Yeah, and then you have FaZe that is like.
TJ is still on Carolina.
Yeah.
More like
Yeah.
TJ, if he has food, they'll win.
Fat Bob, look at him. Look at the fist bumps going out. Map 1 coming in. We got
Overall in our point, they're 2-2, and Carolina is 4-0.
4-0.
Who are they
dude.
playing?
Kremp has been
LAG
dunking on people.
and-
Dunking on people.
LAG and Falcons.
That's a fake 4-0, respectively. I missed the fake
gifted.
4-0 in my
So
life.
the argument might well be that OpTic just match up very well against the Ravens, and we'd honestly seen in practice in scrims Ravens not look as good as they did in real games, which is perfectly fine. And to be honest, in practice you're not necessarily trying to win the maps, you're trying to learn. So and Ravens will not complain if their scrims aren't going so well, at least in terms of pure results, but in the actual matches they play. And of course, you know that their search and destroy is very solid, the Ravens on paper, with Slasher and TJ and those guys. Like, their search should be and is very strong so far. Even if their respawn isn't, 60, 70, 80% win rate, which to be fair, it kind of has been so far anyway, but even if it's not, Ravens still find themselves in a good position. But OpTic, they turned the streams on last night, and they streamed some practice. We don't usually get to see this, so you've got to, relish the opportunities when they come around. So this was the first scrim set against what's known as CTE Nation, which is Huke's actual former team. This is the roster with Capsule, Spartan, Proloot that Huke won with at the first time of asking in the first Challengers Cup. Before then, of course, he left to join the league, and then Arcetes has come in, it seems, instead. But these were the 4 maps that OpTic played against this roster, and they pretty much slammed him. I mean, this was the Vault, 250 to 96. Shotzzy goes 32 in 25. Huke, though, 39 in 24. We've not really seen as yet, obviously in the official CDL games, an absolute takeover map from Huke. We've seen some decent maps from Huke, but nothing like completely taking over. But Huke does, have the ability to do that. And to be fair, he was doing it in challenges all the time before the season, before he got to OpTic, basically, after all the Pred stuff happens over the last couple of weeks. So, this is what he's doing in scrims, and he will replicate this online. Whether he replicates this on LAN is still the question with Huke that is always difficult to answer. We know that his decision-making in those settings is, not always historically been the best. Map 2, they played Skyline. This was 250 to 147, and, Dashy actually goes negative this map, 22 and 31, but it doesn't matter because Huke has another massive takeover game, 33 and 20. Good map from Ken, good map from Shotzzy, and they beat them by a solid 100 points. This map was closer on the red card, 250 to 222. Huke actually goes negative this map, but Dashy and Kenny have a very good time, as they usually tend to actually on this red card hardpoint map. And the final map in the series that they played was Hacienda, and it definitely looks like OpTic are very good at Hacienda so far. It's coming to the map pool for rewinds, and 250 to 178. Dashy goes 40 and 27 here, which is honestly insane for an AR. Like Huke, for example, and let's just look at Huke, 27 and 24. So Dashy had 3 more deaths and 13 more kills. So for your AR to have that many more engagements than one of your sub players is actually kind of ridiculous. And if you look at the other side as well, like obviously Arcetes has a tough time here, but no one was even anywhere close. Even Shotzzy had 5 fewer engagements than Dashy did, and Dashy had 12 assists as well. So 30 non-traded kills, ridiculous takeover map from Dashy. This was a screenshot of that POV as well. 52 eliminations he had, of course. So 52 in 27 when you consider the assist and the eliminations as well, and the hill time. So Dashy's picked up where he left off, really, from Black Ops 4, with Hacienda now officially back into the game. But this was the scrim set that people were really waiting for, was when they played Ravens later in the day, who, are Ravens expected to be winning championships this year, be the #1 team in the game? No, but they are currently top of the standings. Ravens started 4-0, they 3-0'd FaZe the other day, they're the #1 seed going into the Minor 1 at the start of January, so they've looked very impressive so far. far in every single game mode. OpTic, though, according to what Shotzzy said earlier in the video, just generally speaking, OpTic have had their number in scrims, it seems, and that continued last night as well. These maps, of course, were closer, and this series is more competitive than what we saw with OpTic playing the CTE Nation, but nonetheless, the results were very fascinating. So anyway, game 1, 250, 197 on the Vault. This was honestly a very even game, but seemingly the fundamentals from OpTic come into play, because it's not like OpTic outslayed them massively. They did outslay them, I guess, by, 7 or so kills. But I thought this is kind of an impressive map, because look at like the evenness of the hill time distribution. I thought was pretty good. Dashy going 32 and 32. I thought as well, like, Slash's numbers this series, we'll have a look at them, were very impressive, especially the pace, because I know that, like, Slash is not as slur of an AR as people think that he is, but certainly not in this game. I mean, like, if he's able to outpace Dashy and Kenny in terms of total engagements, that's impressive going. And look at this map. I know that obviously Ravens lost it, but Slash at this map goes 38 and 26, with and Vivid has a bit of a tough one here as well, and OpTic win it by the exact same margin, 250, 197. Again, Kenny has a bit of a rough time here in this map, but the rest of his teammates get the job done. The red card was a similar scoreline, 250, 184. Kenny again not having the best map here. I will say that his performance online so far in Black Ops 6 has been weaker than I expected it to be. I don't think that's necessarily going to mean that much in the grand scheme. I mean, look, he's 24 and 29 with 16 assists. So it's not like he had a bad map here. But I do think Kenny, he always gets better on LAN. He will, I'm sure, do so again. But he knows himself, even in the league matches and stuff, he's not played at the level that he'd want to be at so far. But Dashy has been 35 and 28 from him. Slasher again with a 34 and 26 map. And yeah, again, TJ with a bit of a rough one and not much hill time either. However, the protocol, this was an absolute masterclass from the Ravens. They look really, really good at this map so far. Like, they seem to have an understanding of this map beyond any other team. And again, kind of like, this is the default scoreboard for the Ravens right now. TJ and Vivid are going even. Gwinn and Slasher are like double positive. Like, what's going on here? 36 and 20, 35 and 18. And OpTic got completely slammed this map. Kenny has a rough time, goes double negative in the end. And then they played Hacienda, though. And the Hacienda was absolutely crushing in favor of OpTic Texas. 250 to 103. This time Slasher's 17 and 28. Gwynn's still even. TJ's very negative as well. And it's Dashy who actually goes even this time. But it was Huke this time with the takeover map. So yeah, it seems like, based on the evidence we've seen today, Ravens on their protocol, very, very impressive. But OpTic on their Hacienda, they maybe are the team in the game to beat right now. Now, obviously, it's early days for Haci being in the map pool. This is maybe the first time that Ravens even scrimmed it. So they've got a lot to learn, and I'm sure they'll be good at it in due course. But OpTic right now, Hacienda in the pool seems to have given them some sort of help. Now, the other 3 maps that were played, they were, well, gone 2-1 in favor of OpTic here. The Vault was a 3-0 for OpTic. I can't show you the scoreboards, I mean, I can, but you guys can't see much because the scoreboards are glitched in control. Classic. Like, God, really, when you could only see maybe the final round or whatever that was played. But, yeah, OpTic won this one 3-0. They then lost the protocol 3-2. So, again, does seem like Ravens on the protocol are a team to be, forced to be reckoned with. And then the Hacienda, they won 3-1. So, total map count, 6 to OpTic, 2 to Ravens. But I think there's a few takeaways so far. From the Ravens side, they continue to look pretty impressive. At least, when they win, Gwinn and Slasher continue to look really, really good. And, their search and destroy we know is solid as well. So I definitely think this shows Ravens are a very good team. We know that obviously in the official CDL stuff, and especially if OpTic do tend to have a matchup advantage against them for whatever reason, that could be beneficial for OpTic down the line because, it's plausible that OpTic end up playing the Ravens in a match at the minor in just a few weeks' time when January comes around for the CDL once again. But obviously from the OpTic side, sure, Kenny's performance online hasn't been as strong as maybe he would like it to be. Dashy and Shotzzy have been mega consistent holding their own. Huke has had his takeover maps, and Hacienda seems to be a bit of a playground for OpTic so far since it's been added into the pool. But very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.